as a parent, you just drop your kids off at school, you meet your teachers, you may be involved, but you don't know what they go through. And I'll be honest with you, that board meeting
Yeah.
really let me see like, oh, okay, because I know so many good teachers in the district. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
that's to me, East Orange was a
Mm-hmm.
reflection of a lot of districts around the country. You know what I'm saying? It's just so many good teachers who care
Yeah.
about the students, they care about what they do. And I when listening to the
Mm-hmm.
teachers, I was like, damn, you know what? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize like because okay, as outside looking in, right? Because I've never been a teacher, right? But most
Mm.
people think about teachers, or at least in my view, people think
Yeah.
they say, you know what? Teachers do their thing, and then they only work to 3 o'clock, and then they had a whole summer off, and you're like, man, maybe I should be a teacher. People be saying, I've heard people say that sometimes, like, that might be a good look. Now,
Yeah.
and then when you start hearing what teachers really
Yeah.
go through, I'm like, okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
not a walk in the park, what they go through financially. Because many teachers said exactly what you said. They was like, you know what? Y'all don't realize that we already work here. Many of us have to have extra second jobs and have to do what we have to do because the cost of living is so high. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Especially if you're living on the East Coast. I mean, and you live
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
DMV. That's a super
Oh,
expensive area as well as out here in New York and New Jersey to live.
yeah.
So a lot of teachers have to do a lot of other
Yeah.
things, and people
Mm-hmm.
don't. I don't think people realize that.
They don't. And you know what? You brought up a great, great point about the teachers and us having our summers off and getting off at 3. Yes, that's all great, but after school, the majority of teachers to make extra money will take on after school clubs, or they'll stay for the program where
Right.
late pickup for students, for
Right.
parents that can't get off on
Hmm.
time, they will stay to do that, to get that extra money. All that kind of stuff. In the summers, I swear to you, half the teachers this past summer, I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Working, doing summer school. They go
Yeah.
right back to a school for the rest of the summer,
Right.
and maybe they have like a week or two off, and then here we go,
Sometimes,
we're back at the school year, the official school
and
year.
so it's
So
not
the
like,
majority
oh,
of them
when the
are
kids get
teaching
out of their
summer
last day
school.
of school, y'all on y'all way to hang out and have your whole summer off with your feet
No.
kicked up, go to the beach when you want to. That ain't what it's like. Yeah.
Nope. It's not like that for everybody. It is
Probably
not
most
like that for
people,
everybody, like at all.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean the majority, and I know in this school that I'm
Hmm.
at, yeah, everybody was basically working. They were working. And it's just like, geez. And then the ones who aren't like teaching summer school, like the ones who are 12-month employees, they're there all year teaching and planning, mapping out the
Doing something.
schedule for next year. Like they're doing something. So
Mm.
yeah. So we're always doing something. The boundaries. There are boundaries. I'm real strict about that. Like I used to not be, but it can consume and take over, and parents just think, even not just parents, administrators, other coworkers just think that they can just text you, call you, email you at any
Yeah.
time. No, I have my boundaries. When I leave work, I don't want to talk about these children. I love them, but I don't want to think
Yeah.
about anything else that had to do with
Yeah.
school that day. Like I'm off. You know what I mean? The weekends, like principals emailing you during
Yeah.
the weekends, like no, I don't like that.
Monday.
I'm not looking at it until Monday
Yeah.
when it's time to go back in the building. Yeah, you got to have boundaries,
Hmm.
even also on social media, Shy, because parents knowing your Facebook, your
How do you
Instagram,
navigate that now?
it's an absolute no
Now
in my book.
this is a real interesting
Nope.
topic here too, because as a teacher, like, how do you navigate that? You know what I'm
hmm
saying? Like, how do you navigate the social media part?
um, I'm real strict about that because I've seen firsthand what it does on the bad side to teachers with students. Like, is not a good thing. I'm speaking of this is my first year at
Hmm.
my the first school I was telling you about. There was a fifth grade teacher, and she just thought that the students loved her or whatever, and they found her Instagram. They went crazy. They made memes out of her pictures. They were inboxing her, leaving comments, just posting all her stuff
Jeez.
everywhere. Like she got in big trouble for that.
Yeah, yeah.
She did, you know what I mean? Because the kids did too. But I mean, it was out of control. So I said, "Oh no, you will
None of that.
never ever know my stage name. You will never." You know what I mean? So they're like, "I'm gonna find you, Miss," and I'm like, "Oh, you're not gonna find? Okay, look all
Right.
you want,
And the
but
thing
you're
is
not
that
gonna
even
find
if
me
they
under
decide to
that
go,
name."
you
You
can't
know
stop
what I
what people
mean?
go to look for, but
So
at least you not because that teacher let them know.
yeah,
That's the difference. Like the teacher, like you can never
yeah,
control someone searching you if someone want to go and search you all day, but
yeah,
you have a boundary.
right, yes. But you have to, and even people being nice and just saying, "Oh, accepting parents as your Facebook friend and
Yeah.
all this stuff," that's still your personal life outside of
Yeah.
school. And they don't, you're still that teacher. So anything you're
That is
posting, they're going to attach it like to
that's
you.
gotta be
Like
hard,
this teacher
yo.
is doing
That's gotta be
this. And,
hard.
and, but you have to figure out a way because it doesn't end well. Like even last school year, there was a young teacher, pretty girl. Um, she started to let these parents be her friend on Facebook, Instagram, the kids, all the students found her. She was teaching fourth grade. These kids are older. She told well, certain people, but I was one that she told me. The fathers
I knew
were
that's where it was
inboxing
going.
her.
Let me say
Yes, saying
let me
things
say
that they didn't
this.
need to say to
Let me
her.
say this stuff. Now, I gotta tell you, listen, y'all teachers look a lot different than when I was a kid. I'm gonna say that first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? Like the teachers are better looking
That is
now. I
true.
mean, back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, you might caught a nice looking teacher here or there. It was like a rare thing when
Here
the
and
teacher
there.
looked good. I
That
mean,
is true because I don't really remember
teachers and
anybody
librarians were all
looking.
in the same
Yeah,
category back in the day. They well, none of them attractive.
librarian.
At best, it might be somebody who nah. I mean, at best, it
No,
might be somebody who's semi attractive, but most of them was not something you thought about like that. And the dad wasn't trying to hit on nobody.
right. That's
Now the
true.
teachers is lip
That's
gloss
true.
popping, skin clear, good, great looking hair, looking fly. You
Oh
know what I'm
yes,
saying? Bodies, all kind of bodies.
that's true.
You know what I'm saying? So look, I ain't
Yes.
saying
Oh
I'm looking, but
yes.
I am
Oh
human,
yes.
so I do notice. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So but that being said, it's funny too
Right.
because I had done a reaction video
Mm-hmm.
to a New Jersey teacher. There was a New Jersey teacher who she was on Tamron Hall show a couple years ago,
Okay.
and she had a really round, curvaceous
Mm-hmm.
butt. She looked like she had a butt job or whatever, but I don't know. It was just really
Mm-hmm.
curvaceous butt, and she had on these really
Yeah.
tight pants in school. You know what I'm saying? And whatever the case was, either she took a picture or someone else took a picture and it was on her Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the mom started, going in on her or whatever. And she was on Tamron Hall show, talking about, well,
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like, I wanted to show body positivity and I didn't think it was going to be a problem. And gee, I'm not talking about, it's not so much that she has a big round butt, but the
Mm.
jeans were super duper tight.
Yeah.
I'm talking about tight, tight. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
the kids she's
For like
teaching are
form fitting
probably,
clothes.
around that
Yeah.
age, fourth, fifth grade, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case is. But you gotta like to your point, you gotta have some common sense about you.
Absolutely. Absolutely yes. And you just made a point about the clothes. Now, in the school, yes, we're very relaxed, because we are moving around a lot and things like that. But you still, like you say, you still have to have some sense. I've seen teachers come to school with summer rompers. Those are like the little shorts and the little tank like attached. And that's it. No cover up, no nothing. But why are you even wearing rompers as a teacher? Like,
That's
no,
crazy.
don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Like
There's
you
definitely a
have to be
different
aware of
vibe
what you
now.
got on.
There's definitely a
Like, I'm
different vibe
sorry,
with the
we can be
teachers. I mean,
relaxed, but
look, as a little as a now look, as a man, as once a young boy, I would have loved this back when I was a kid. No question. I would have I would have thought it was awesome. But I know, in all
Yes.
fair, no, all jokes aside, like it is real because just to your point,
Mhm.
like kids will go look
Mhm.
for you. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you start talking about kids that are
Yeah, they
pre-adolescents,
will.
10 years old. I mean, if I had a teacher who looked like some of these teachers now, and I had the
Yes.
internet back in the day when I was in fifth and sixth grade, man,
Mhm.
we'd have been, you know what I'm saying? It's almost the equivalent of like as little boys, back in the day we
Yep.
used to try to, sneak and try to find the Playboy magazines or try to find pornography, somebody's dad's
Yeah.
pornography. That's what little boys do. So
Right.
you got to imagine that boy, if you dress like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a boy is going to get on the internet and see, okay, let me see if I can find this teacher, find her gram, and see what she really looks like outside of
Oh my
school.
god. They do. Because they definitely found the one I was talking about where the fathers were inboxing her. They found her Instagram, and the mothers did start to complain. They were like, this is but they were complaining about her personal life and her personal
Right.
pictures with her friends on her Instagram. They were
Right.
like, oh, she's wearing these little bikinis and all that.
Yeah.
She's at the beach with her friends. She's like
Right.
20 something. You know what I mean? Living her life. You should not
Yeah.
judge her on her out what she does on the
Yeah.
outside. It's not, I mean, that's her life. But again, like, you as a teacher also, you can't be giving your students your Instagram page. And
Yeah.
if you do that, that is totally on you.
Right.
Unfortunately, yes, that teacher did do that. She gave her class her Instagram page. Why, honey?
She
Why?
probably didn't know
I
any
mean, she
better.
was a first year teacher, so you got to learn. But I said, and she told I didn't step
Yeah.
into it because I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you
Yeah.
just have to learn. You
You
really
gotta
have to
you
learn
gotta
on your
just
own.
get your
Like,
lumps
don't
and
do
learn
that.
from them.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're teaching children, it's a very social job. It's
Yes.
not like when you go work at a bank or you go work
Mm-hmm.
here or you go work there with adults. You know what I'm saying? Like if you tell adults something and they come check you out,
Right.
then that's just between y'all. And adults, if they have any sense
Mm-hmm.
about them, they know how to, even if they're going to check you out
Right.
personally, you know, they're not going to bring it back to work
Mm-hmm.
and talk about it because they're adults. But kids are like they're going to
That
do
part.
exactly the opposite
Exactly.
and share.
Exactly. That is what they're gonna do. And it
Hmm.
goes to their parents and everything. Like, even with me, like, I love sharing experiences with
Yes.
the kids, like when it comes to the music business and all the cool things I do and stuff like or have done. And they're just like, what? Like, can we hear your music and stuff like that? Or, oh my gosh, are you on this platform and that platform? I'm like, yeah. And what's the name of it? Not never telling you. You know what I mean? And then actually one parent, she's cool, but she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, the kids told me you were on a TV show or something." I was like, "Oh yeah," and she's like, "Well, what is this? I can look it up." I was like, "Well, I kind of keep my stuff personal, so
That's what's
I'm sorry.
that's what you told her.
Love you, but I can't tell you." I had to be straight up with. Yeah, I told her. I said I don't give out my my personal, like, stage name or personal info to
That's smart
anybody,
though.
and she had to
That I
respect
think
it.
that's smart because I think a lot of we're
So
humans. We love to share. We love attention. You know what I'm saying? As human
mhm,
beings, and
yeah,
to make that
yeah.
decision
Mhm.
to be like, no, even though you're an adult, I still ain't giving it to you. That's smart.
But she was like, I
Hmm.
understand. She laughed it out. Like, she was cool and she understood. But I was like,
Right.
nah, just because
Right.
you're asking, no. And we cool? Oh, no, no, no. Because once you look at it with your
Yep.
kids, the next
Heck
day
yeah.
the whole
Heck
school
yeah.
knows.
No, and that
So
that is that
absolutely
is
not.
the no, that's so true because a lot of teachers I don't think they really think about that stuff. Or maybe they do, but there's a lot who they can't find
No.
they can't find the limit between sharing and not sharing, and with children it gets
Mm.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
There was and on that point there was a teacher. Do you remember that teacher who had the his it was a male teacher. He had female students braiding his hair.
Yes, he worked in PG County. That's the first county I worked in. Yes.
I'm so glad we're
Yes.
talking about this because I wanted to ask you what you thought. I did a video on it a while back, and he was very cool with his
Yeah.
students. Now I can't remember how
Yeah.
old the girls were, but I believe they were junior high students.
Yeah.
So He was a popular teacher. They
Yeah,
really
yep,
liked him and all that.
yep.
And he had the girls, I guess, they
Mhm.
had done their work or whatever, but he had some girls taking his braids down in class, right? And it was on his Instagram, I
That's what it
believe.
was. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think he ended up getting let go,
Yeah.
right? Because the video went viral. And
Yeah.
he posted the video, whatever it was. It wasn't, he didn't say anything sexual. It was just, it was the optics. So
Right.
that's what had happened. And
Yes.
my thing was that,
Yeah.
bro,
Mhm.
come on. Like, sometimes you can be right and innocent and be wrong as hell at the same time,
Uh-huh.
And I looked at that, I was
True.
like,
True.
you gotta know, as a male teacher,
Yeah.
you can't, I mean,
Yeah.
the optics of having young girls
He
taking
looks
down your
away.
braids in class, I'm like, bruh.
I did. I did see that video, and I love the fact that he has that relationship with his students. I love
Yeah.
that. That means they trust him. They trust him, right? But you cannot, no, students shouldn't be touching you in any kind of a way at all anyway. I mean, yes, the students give you a hug or something like that, that's fine. But something like that, that's too personal for me. Taking out your
Right.
braids, I think it's because he wanted to go get his hair done or something, and he needed it out quick or whatever. Like, no, you cannot have your students doing something like that.
Crazy.
All girls, that just looks a
Crazy.
whole kind of way. No, no, it looked crazy. It did look crazy. But for you to actually post that on social media, like, come on, you have to think better because today, any little thing, you have to be so careful as a teacher. You have to be so careful. Anything you say, do, can get turned
Mm.
around so quick and then
Hmm.
you're on administrative leave. You know what I mean? So no, I thought that was crazy. I don't even know why he thought that was cool to like to post. I guess he
Yeah.
was just trying to show his relationship with the
Right.
students and all teachers are not bad and that kind of thing. But no. Yeah, I think he was put
Got a
on
job back.
admin
Okay.
leave, but I
Okay.
do believe he got his job back. Now, I
Well,
think
he,
that's
like you
what
said,
happened.
he probably was an
But
amazing teacher. I'm
still,
sure
if
because
you're still,
from what I heard, he was a really great teacher
it is.
as a black male teacher. Because I don't know the numbers, but I do know that there's an
Mhm.
underrepresentation of black male teachers from what I know. So I felt bad because I'm like, here you
That
have
is
a
true.
young
That
brother
is very
who
true.
really wants to
Yeah.
teach, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, dude, I mean,
Yeah.
you're just ruining what you're trying to do. So I'm glad he got his job back, but
Like once something goes online, it's over.
of course,
Especially if you I'm sure he let the students know.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, I'm gonna post it to TikTok or whatever. And then it
Mm-mm,
spreads like wildfire.
mm-mm.
Like you can't stop it. You cannot these days. So
I don't know if this was going on back in the day with us, but I see a lot of inappropriate relationships between teachers and students. Like relationships, like stuff going on. And I'm like, yo. And again, I know this is not the majority of teachers,
oh
obviously, but
God.
I've seen a lot of I mean, on
Yeah.
both sides. I've seen men having, you know, things going on with young girls, and I've seen what's more shocking. I've seen a lot of
Mhm.
women have things going on with boys. You know what I'm saying? Like 20 something year olds having something going on with
Ugh.
teenagers.
Yeah.
You know, well, I saw
Which makes
one.
no
I
sense
remember seeing one. I
at
forgot
all.
what city it was in, but there was a woman who she had a relationship with a boy. What's interesting is that their age difference wasn't that much. She was only 20
Mhm.
and he was 17. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's
Mm.
right, but their
Oh my
age was
gosh.
very, very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you still a damn teacher.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. Just that obsession, that love, that lust. I don't know what that is. Like it's crazy to me. And it's like you can't find anyone your own age. Like you really have to resort to a kid who can't comp they're not even at that level yet to even understand what they're doing for real. To me.
Well,
Like
the other one,
I don't
the girl who,
understand.
the teacher who was 20 and the boy was
I don't get it.
17. So what happened is that I think he was on the
Uh-huh.
football team or whatever. So I think either they had some form of sexual activity. I don't remember if it was whatever it was, but they did something sexually. So he ended up sharing it with his teammate
Mm-hmm.
because he took video of it with his
Mm.
phone.
See?
Yeah,
Are
I
you
think she gave
serious?
him some head or something, and then he
Wow.
took video of it and he showed. But that's what's going to happen when you're 17, a 17-year-old boy.
Woo.
That's what you can expect. You're here. You are a 20-year-old woman. You're
Yeah.
not that much older, but you do have a job and you have passed high
Yeah.
school, and you should have some sense to say, you know what?
Yeah.
Even if you want to deal with this kid and you like him, he's not of age yet. You're technically breaking the law. You know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
he's only a year from 18. Just wait if that's what you want to do.
Yes.
You know. And she,
Right. Just wait. And it's like
yes,
you went through all of this schooling, training, all of this for a
yeah,
moment of passion or whatever, and then it's just all
gone.
gone. Your whole name, your rep is just tainted.
Yeah, I
Like
mean that tripped me out because
that's
to your
just
point, I
no.
mean she couldn't teach
It's
anymore.
absolutely insane.
He could no longer teach, and then obviously she's considered a that is
Yeah.
statutory rape. So I don't know if she's considered a sex offender after that, but you know,
Mm. See, wait, well, wait. Do you know what state that was in?
you know what? That's
Because
true.
there are
There are
different
different
laws with
laws because
that too.
some states I believe 17 is considered legal, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't remember what state that was in. I have to find that to actually see what that is. But in any event,
Mm.
even if she wasn't, even if it wasn't considered
Yeah.
rape, it was inappropriate because she's a teacher, you know.
Still.
So now, have you ever seen any type of teacher strike or pending strike? Have you ever had any issue in the area? Oh, you have. Okay,
Oh. Oh,
really?
absolutely yes. We just want to strike all the time. About lots of things. Yes, about our contracts, the pay raises, all kinds of stuff. But yes, there are times when we'll all
Okay.
say it has to kind of be under the radar or whatever. But we'll say, okay, everybody on this particular day, we're not happy with this, so
Oh, really?
everybody call out on Tuesday or whatever. Yeah, oh yeah. And so everyone calls out, and then the schools are out of you know what because we need subs and that's another thing, there's a shortage of subs too. People don't want to come in and sub with these kids that are just disrespectful and violent or whatever. Is the school's just crazy these days, so the schools are
Mm,
like totally, they don't
yeah.
know what to do when all the teachers strike like that and
Okay.
call out.
So that's
it's
happened over
it's
there
a
because
big
what
deal.
happens is
It's a
that
big deal.
when we my wife dropped the kids off at school,
Yeah.
they were like, today's a half day. Like
Mm-hmm.
pick them up at 12 o'clock. Like we found out at 7 o'clock. You know what I'm saying?
See, now that's not
Oh
right.
man.
That's not right either because that
It was
messes up
crazy.
parents'
It was crazy.
schedules and all
Luckily,
that
we were
kind
able to
of
work it
work and
out, but
everything.
we found out, well, what
That's
happened is that the district sent
crazy.
a text out at 7:30. Like when she was on her way to drop them off or about to leave the house,
Mm,
we got a text like it's a half day today. Like,
yeah,
oh, okay. We got to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so the meeting was on a Wednesday and then they had a
that's
half a day Thursday and
crazy.
Friday, but luckily by
Oof.
Monday it was okay again. Now with teachers, so other
Oh
thing I
yeah.
found out about in our district, and again, this is not East Orange, New Jersey is
Mm-hmm.
not unique to the world. So I'm sure y'all went through the same thing at some point. Now, I found out there was teachers have been working
Mm-hmm.
for years without a contract. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Or not an updated contract, I guess. Is there always a contract? Is there like because I guess from what I understand,
Mm-hmm.
you can tell me if I'm wrong. From what I understand in the union or how they have it set up,
Mm-hmm.
they had a contract in 2021 or
Yeah.
22, and I guess there was supposed to be some type of update to certain
Mm-hmm.
things, and there hadn't been an update, so they just
Mm-hmm.
kept working under those same terms. But the contract was how does that work?
Ooh, that's always an issue. It's like with everybody with that when it comes to that because the contracts are supposed to be updated to increase our pay, percentage wise based
Hmm.
on cost of living, all of that kind of stuff. And what happens is the union, all of them, they're negotiating with the board, with the district. They're
Hmm.
just in negotiations all the time and nothing's resolved. You know what I mean? So the contract is staying the way that it always
Okay.
was until they finally come to an agreement. Then it's like, okay, here's the change that's going to be implemented, but you won't see the effects
Right.
until next, whatever, or whatever. Sometimes with that though, they'll say, okay, we're gonna go back and give you guys back pay, or
Okay.
for some months or something. Some of them will do that, some of them. But yeah, that's awful when the contract stays the same and they can't make an agreement.
And
People's
in the
salaries are
interim,
the same, they're getting
y'all just
no
keep working. Y'all
increase,
just keep showing up.
nothing.
And that's what a lot of the teachers were saying. Yeah.
You just keep showing up. That's why teachers, yeah, and then we start to feel like, or a lot of teachers are like, well, why do we need to keep showing up and y'all aren't doing anything to help us, do better in
Right.
life or whatever when it comes to financial aspect of it all. Like, it's not fair. So teachers will call out. And
People don't realize that about teachers. They so tell me about how does it feel like because you care about your students, but obviously you care about yourself and your life. How does that?
mm-hmm,
Is there something that you go through when it comes to that feeling of kind of like, well, I am not showing up because I'm mad about what's going on, but at the same time, is there a guilt there that you
mm-hmm.
feel like for the kids at the same time? Like, how do you deal with that?
Oh, that's a good question. um because even when it's not something like that, teachers in general, they feel so much guilt when they have to take off. They really, really do, because they're like, oh, they're gonna miss this or that, or I was supposed to do this or that. Teachers really do feel away. When I first started teaching, I really felt awful, when I wasn't there, because I knew how many students I had to teach. I knew whoever was coming in, they're not going to know what to do
Hmm.
for music. You know what I mean? Like, at all. So, I always felt bad about it. But then as I grew as a teacher, and my mom is my everything. She's my rock, and she really had to talk to me and say, you have to put yourself first. If you're no good,
Hmm.
you're
Yeah.
not going to be any good to these children. You know what I mean? So if you need to take a mental day, if you need to do whatever, you have
Yeah.
to do it for you. Just in general. Yep. If it's a strike, if it's a walkout, if it's stay home, if you're sick, a doctor's appointment, if you
Hmm.
have to take off to go to your kid's recital, whatever, like, you still
Yeah.
feel that guilt. It's like it's always there. But now, as a kind of a vet,
Like they'll be all right.
I don't worry anymore. If I'm not there, I'm not there. I'll see you
Right.
tomorrow, or I'll see you whenever
Y'all
I
be all
get
right.
back,
That's what we got subs for.
because y'all will be all right. You will be okay. Yeah, and that's how I feel now. But even now, teachers I see, there was a teacher the other day. She's been out for like 2 days, and she has
Okay.
pneumonia and strep throat,
Oh
and
damn.
then she still came in and she's still sick. No, you need to stay home. There's
Yeah.
no point. You're not going to do anybody any good
Yeah.
being here. But they still will come
Hmm.
in because of that guilt. So you just
Yeah.
have to. That comes with, I guess, growth too.
Because again, on the outside looking in, if you're not tuned in and you're not a teacher, you don't get it. You just don't even know
Hmm.
what's going on, like as a parent. So, like, how did
Hmm.
like you're in Baltimore
Yeah.
City. This is in
Yeah.
Baltimore City, or this was
Yeah. No,
PG
this
County. Okay,
particular walkout was in PG County. So the first one I
got you,
told you about,
got you.
where the guy
Same.
was having the kids take the braids out,
Like,
that county. Yeah, there was a big strike planned where they were like, everybody needs
okay.
to walk out of class at this particular time on this particular day to like take a stand against the school district.
Now, how long was it? Like, how long? How did it lead up to that point of teachers were going to walk out? Like, was it something that was long coming? Like, how was it?
Yeah, it was long coming. It was planned. You
Okay,
know what I mean? Like, because it had to be kind of on the hush, so that admin wouldn't try to reprimand you, or
okay.
whatever. They, it's kind of on the low.
You knew,
So it's like, if you were in the
right?
loop, then you found out. You know what I mean? You knew.
Now, what? Now, the contract negotiations, like, how long were things kind of not in a good place before it got to the point where teachers were ready to walk out?
It was a long time. It was a
Hmm.
long time, and
Yeah,
people are fed up because
yeah,
any other job, for the most part, any other company, job, government, they all get a raise every year for the most part.
Hmm.
And like I
Right.
said earlier, with the evaluations, other companies they evaluate all the time based on what your performance is. You get your raise.
Now, here's what's interesting. I want to parallel this to what happened with the dock workers recently,
Mm.
right? So the dock workers, obviously, um, people were talking about how the union rep he was kind of had a not the union rep, the new union
Mm.
leader. He was kind of mafioso type of vibes, you know what I'm saying? But he you know, he was like, "Listen, we ain't gonna show up." And then he's like, "You know what's gonna happen? Next thing you know,
Hmm.
there's no groceries.
I heard
There's
him. I heard
no
his
supplies.
speech. I
There's no
heard him
steel. You
talking.
can't build anything. You know, nothing's gonna move. You know, we shut this country down. We ain't showing up to work." And
Hmm.
it's interesting because now, obviously, with the dock workers, if they don't show up, it's a big problem. But
Right.
similarly, if teachers decide they ain't gonna show up, it is a
Mhm.
problem. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yes.
In our town over here, when because they didn't say that the teachers called out. What they said
Yeah.
due due to unforeseen
Hmm.
circumstances, we're gonna it's gonna be a half day today. That was on that Thursday after the board meeting on Wednesday, and everybody knew we like them teachers. They ain't coming today, and I hope they coming in tomorrow. But I
Oh
say that to
God.
say that
Yeah.
if the teachers strike,
Yeah.
man, that is like
Yep.
really tough because at the end of the day, like who gonna teach the kids? And the parents got to figure stuff out
Yeah.
immediately. Like, oh, because for a lot of people, the school is babysitting. Let's be honest, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's learning and it's babysitting. You know, some place for
I
them to go
know. Yeah.
while you working. So
Yes.
so
Yep.
I say that to say that
Hmm.
it for the teachers to walk out. Teachers are so essential,
Exactly.
and we take them for granted so
Hmm.
much. And I was wondering. I'm like, man, what would
Yep.
happen if
They sure
they
are.
just didn't show up? Do you find like people put a lot of pressure on teachers to not strike? Like, I mean, from the
Mm.
perspective of like, yo, what are the kids gonna do? Like, do you ever see that type of thing? Like, because like I said, I couldn't if the teachers had took a strike in our town, I couldn't have blamed them. That's
The
the pressure.
pressures with that is always if you do this, you're gonna lose your job. You're
Okay.
that's the pressure.
They don't try to
They
be
can
like,
say, "Oh,
yo,
you
what about
did
the
this,"
kids?
or
What about
whatever. We're gonna terminate your contract. It's that kind of a threat to your livelihood. So it's all about that. If you do
got
this,
you.
yeah, your contract's gonna be canceled
Sure.
and you're out of here. Like that's the threat. So teachers are scared. You know what I mean? They don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. So they just go along with whatever it is, which is the majority of the time. And see, that's the hard part because that's what the union wants,
Hmm.
right? They want everybody to do this because the larger the numbers, the better chances we are to getting whatever we need. And most
Hmm.
of the time people will say, "Okay, I'm with it." "Oh, no, I don't know about that." And they'll back out. So
Okay.
it's not as large as it needs to be. But
Got you. So
if it
sometimes
was, it
when
would
you do
impact.
have, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, my bad. And I was just saying, if everyone really stuck to it, and the numbers were massive, that would be insane. It would be
Okay.
out of here. Hmm.
So you do have situations where there is a planned walkout or
Hmm.
strike, and everybody don't do it.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
Okay. Because
No.
my assumption is everybody, like if the union says, "Yo, we're gonna strike," everybody's like, "Okay, cool, let's do
People
it."
will be on board because they want the change, but then they get scared and they back out.
Then they'll back
So
out.
yeah, so the numbers start to dwindle, and it's not as massive as it should be.
Okay.
So there's no real. It's an impact, but not as hard as it could be if
Okay.
everyone really did it. Yeah.
Got it. I mean, I guess that's the
Mhm.
rule in any industry when you have a strike. But
Mhm.
for whatever reason, see, I kind of look at teachers
Mhm.
the way the dock workers are.
Mhm.
It's maybe not as extreme as dock workers striking,
Yeah,
but teachers are a close second in my opinion because
I agree.
you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
for a dock worker, like as a
Yeah.
dock worker, why would you be scared? of striking. I mean, the only thing with
Right.
this with striking is that I don't think you're getting paid obviously when you
Mhm.
strike.
Right.
However, when you have such an essential service,
Mm.
I feel like okay, they're not going to fire everybody for one, and then two, okay, maybe you won't get what you want,
Mhm.
but at least they're gonna come to the table. We could talk about it now.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about it now because we got to get y'all back in
Yep.
immediately.
Yep.
And that's how I look at teachers.
Mhm.
You know, because if
Yep.
you lose a couple of teachers, that's one thing. But if you lose the vast majority of the main teachers
Mhm.
in the grades, I mean,
Right.
it can just destroy the whole district. You know what I'm saying? So,
That part. And that's why I'm like, oh, I wish it really would go through sometimes, everybody doing what they need to do, but it's like, no, everybody doesn't do it.
mm,
They just don't do
mm-mm.
it.
For me, honestly, I talk about national politics,
Mhm.
national government. Obviously we in a major election right now. I pay a lot
Yeah.
more attention to the national politics and somewhat of the
Yeah.
local. But on the
Yeah.
local politics, it made me realize, you know what? I have to be tuned in a lot more to my local
Mm.
politics too,
Mhm.
because you know, like I said, the superintendent for East Orange, he just
Mhm.
came in July. He inherited a problem, but
Yeah.
I wasn't tapped into the old superintendent and the board and what
Mhm.
they were doing with the money,
Right.
because when you have mismanagement of money, that's when you end up having these deficits, which affects the teachers.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, so do you find yourself as a teacher? Is it normal to be kind of tapped in a little bit more on the local government side per se, or?
It is. It kind of forces you to, because you're just like, wait, well, where is this money going? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, how are they deciding this? Like, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like, you are a little more tuned in, because you're like, okay, whoever's in charge of the school district, what are you doing when you're going
What
to
are y'all
these
doing?
board meetings with the state or whatever, whatever? Like, it's a whole thing. Like, and then it's like, okay, you're not doing what we need you to do, so we need you to get out of here. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then they're there. People are trying to get them out, and it's hard. It's hard to get them out. These people have been in this position for years. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And their contracts are
Yeah.
extended. People are pissed off about it. So it's always some kind of crazy fight going on.
Mm,
Like, I mean, even I can say for Baltimore City, I'm still new to this, school system. But from what I've heard, the superintendent, she's been there for years. And apparently the people say she's not doing what she needs to do. And they really want her out. Like, they
hmm.
really want her out. But then the other day I saw her contract's been extended. So, people are in an
And the
uproar.
superintendent is not voted in,
I'm
that
not
I know
sure.
of.
I'm not sure if they're
Okay.
voted in.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I have to
I,
check
I
myself.
have
You
to
know what I'm
check.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit up here and pretend.
Yeah,
Like some
that part
people
I
will
don't know.
pretend. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like, listen, I honestly don't know about,
Yeah.
and you know what? Quite honestly, G, here's the thing. Like a lot of times with local government,
Mhm.
because people aren't tapped in, you
Mhm.
often don't see what actually is going on. A
I
lot of times
know.
on the local level, there's a lot of effery going on the local
Yep.
level
Yeah.
that we don't even realize.
That's true. That is true.
And you're right. People will stay in their seat for
A
a
long
long
time.
time.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know what I mean? And
Mhm.
be spending money, having private drivers, all kind of
Oh,
weird things that you wouldn't think of.
exactly.
You
Exactly.
know.
And that's
So
the
I don't
problem.
know. I don't know if you've heard of Tiffany Henyard, but
Mm-mm.
Tiffany Henyard is America's worst mayor in a town called Dalton, Illinois. And
Oh gosh, that's where you're
Dalton
from.
is, huh?
Isn't that where you're from?
That's where I'm
Dalton,
from.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I grew up in Dalton.
Yeah.
So this has been going on. She's been mayor for the past 3 years,
Oh
but
gosh.
she's the mayor, and without going into the whole thing, she's a local politician
Mhm.
who got in office, has the city, or it's called the village of Dalton. It's about 20,000 people. It's about as big
Mhm.
as East Orange. So
Mhm.
they're like, I don't know, 7 million, $8 million in deficit. Her story has made me really realize a lot too, because I
Mhm.
just did an interview with somebody I went to high school with who's tapped in because she still lives in the area and has lived there for a long
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
And local government, man, is something else. The
Mhm.
mayors,
Yeah.
the account. executives,
Mhm.
the clerks. I mean,
Yeah.
the judges, the
Yep.
superintendents of schools. Like a lot of times, the people who are in those seats, man, if
Mhm.
they're not doing their thing. But again, you don't really realize it until something come up where
Yep.
it affects something like the teachers.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what's scary,
That's true. That is
you
true.
know.
Yeah,
So
because when they're in those seats for so long, other people are in their seats for long, and everything's just flowing the way it needs to go. Nobody's paying attention. All right, we know the routine, and then
yep,
one little hiccup, and then it's like, oh, everything's disturbed.
right,
our
yeah,
whole our whole operation or
yep.
whatever.
People want their
Crazy.
checks to keep coming, and
Yep, that
I mean,
part.
meaning like the board and the superintendents, they
Yeah.
want their checks to keep coming the way they come, and
Yep.
you know, sometimes people get in there and they start using those funds because there'd
Yep.
be millions of dollars coming in,
Yeah.
tax dollars, state dollars, all that stuff coming in, and if you have
Mhm.
somebody who, you know, whatever, they could be using
Mhm.
overspending or embezzling or whatever the case is. You never know until something like you said, it gets some
Right.
type of hiccup, and
Right.
you realize like, oh, okay, now we in some type of crazy deficit. They got to let
Mhm.
go of all these teachers to balance the budget
Mm-mm-mm.
because they were like, if we don't let go of over here in these stores, they're like, if we don't let go of these 75 counselors and teachers and stuff like that,
Right.
we won't be able to make payroll by the end of the year. We have to let them go to balance the budget.
That is so irresponsible. And it is not fair to all those teachers and counselors. That's not their fault. Like
Not at all.
somebody needs to be held accountable for this. Like that's crazy. Or
It
at
is.
least, I don't know. I mean, that would be hard, but some kind of way, just give them to a different county. I mean, something. So they have something. Just like,
Well, they
I
said
don't
that they were
know.
going to try to. They said they were going to try to relocate them or help them transition to
Okay.
other counties. So I
Okay.
mean that's
But
cool,
still,
but still.
right. What if that job is 30 minutes away? You didn't plan on that commute or whatever. Who knows what anyone's circumstances. Like, that's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Federally, I think it needs to be something to increase the teachers' salaries because teachers
Agreed.
shouldn't be having to work multiple jobs, man. I
I
mean, like,
know.
you know,
I know.
it just don't make no
Exhausting.
sense.
It's exhausting. Like,
Yeah,
I always say to people, like, being a teacher, it's like acting. You have to go in there and put on a show every day.
can
Every
imagine.
day. It's a stage. You have to have energy, personality, like all these things. That's energy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You're drained at the end of the day. You are tired. And then to have to go to something else, or you can't even relax on the weekend because you have to go to this job or whatever. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
crazy, man.
I know.
People have no idea. And you're so right. I mean, you're so right because I could only imagine. You can't go in like, oh, I feel like crap today, and
Those
I'm just
kids
gonna
don't
be
care.
here. You know what I'm saying?
They
Like,
don't care. They they want you to do put on that show.
put on that show.
Okay? No, we don't want to see you all down and depressed. Like, no, because that will actually that is going to bring out some behaviors that you don't need either. Like when
Right,
they trying to take advantage of the fact that you don't feel good and all these things. Those
right.
kids do not care. They're going to do whatever they want, whatever.
Yeah,
So yeah, they need to do something about the pay because no, teachers are they are struggling.
yeah. I think
Like,
it's gonna continue to be a big problem because it's
mm-hmm.
definitely something that the cost of living is not going down.
No.
And at the end of the day, I mean, teachers are always going to be needed. I mean, it's such an important thing
Yeah.
that I think that and when I start to look at it, I said, it isn't just here. Like I said, I've
Mm-mm.
seen hearing your story, hearing other people's story,
Mm-hmm.
looking at other places where teachers are working multiple jobs, going on
Yep.
strike, and it just seems like it's one of the most unappreciated jobs, but
Mm-hmm.
the most important.
And another thing that just when you were talking, it made me realize conversations having with other teachers and stuff like that. Today, not a lot of people are enrolling in teacher programs in colleges anymore because of the what is happening to us. They don't want to go
Right.
into this. So they're not even, trying to study to become a teacher. Like enrollment for being a teacher is not anywhere close to what it used to be. So that's a problem too.
That's a great point, and I'm
Mhm.
glad you said that because I thought that was an issue. I wasn't
Mhm.
sure if it was,
Oh
but I
yes, it
thought that
is.
might be an issue.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
because when you look at that's a great point. When you look at kids who grow up going to college, young
Mhm.
adults, and they start looking at professions,
Right.
there are certain professions that are starting to become starved of um of applicants.
Yep.
So, for instance, I mean, I mean, it's off of the subject, but on the subject, I mean,
Mhm.
air traffic control, they have a hard time getting air
Mm.
traffic control in the
Oh wow.
aircraft industry.
I didn't know that.
They have a hard time. They've had a hard time.
Wow.
I don't know if there's a large amount of pilots either, but
Wow.
one of the reasons,
Mm.
so just a parallel, for instance,
Mhm.
there was a documentary a couple years ago that I watched about pilots
Mhm.
and how much pilots work.
Mm.
And a lot of the pilots don't make that much money. You would
I've
think,
heard
you
that.
know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
starting off, some
Yeah.
of the pilots make maybe less than teachers or around the same amount. I mean, it's low.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And now here's another essential job.
Sheesh.
Here you have
Yeah.
now, and this came up because
Mm.
I was watching there was a particular plane crash that happened back in 2009. It
Mhm.
was on Colgan Air, and I think Colgan Air was part of a small they were a small company connected, I think, to United or whatever. I think they did
Mhm.
like United shorter flights for United. But
Yeah.
anyway, there was a flight in '09 that crashed. It was flying from Newark, and I think it was flying to Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And the pilot, they were about 10 minutes from landing in Buffalo.
Mhm.
And what happened is that the pilot made a very common error. So he was about 10 minutes from landing, and whatever the case was, instead of pushing down on the instrument, he pulled up or whatever, and they crashed, right? So what happened is that this whole investigation, what they started looking at first. Obviously, they had to figure out why the plane crashed. They figured out it was
Mhm.
pilot error, and they were like, "Well, how did this pilot make this really common error?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Him and the first officer. So come to find out, they had made a common mistake. They were talking at a certain point they shouldn't have been talking, and they listened to the conversation from the black box, and they
Oh
were talking
wow.
about how exhausted they were.
No way.
Yeah. So
No.
that opened up a whole thing where they started to look at
Oh wow.
how exhausted they were. They heard the pilot yawning. He was talking about his whole day and how, so they started looking at the
Serious?
pilots, what they're paid and what they go through. So
Yeah.
some of them were sleeping in the airport sometimes or in the
Oh
pilot's
gosh.
lounge where they shouldn't be sleeping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Oh.
just a parallel to teachers where you have pilots, to your point, you have pilots where or you have situations where pilots may not be wanting to become pilots because they're like, yo, I got to go through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a stressful job in that sense. That's a lot of
Absolutely.
responsibility.
Yep.
And I ain't really making much money.
Mhm. Let me, and just to that point too, like just to end that, there's a teacher this year. She came in, new teacher. She left. We started school, the school. Well, she was there, for the training, when teachers come back before the kids and all that. 2 weeks in, she said she couldn't do this
You mean this year?
this year. She told
So
the,
she started the school year in September
yeah,
and was like 2 weeks later, I'm out.
she said, I can't do this. This job is not for me. This is not for
Damn.
me. She had a breakdown. So,
Really?
yep. So they had to find another teacher to come in, which is extremely difficult. When we just start the school year, we're getting into
Yeah.
our routines and stuff like that. Yeah, that was extremely hard for the kids. I mean, they were screaming and crying. They were like devastated.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like a hard transition. And that
Yeah.
particular class with those particular students was not an easy class either. So I
Okay.
know that added to, you know, her reasoning, because she was like, I can't do this.
Wow.
So she left. She
Did,
left.
did you get any insight as to what she was like what her particular stress point was or she was just out
No.
of there?
Um no, I just heard from the grapevine, that she was just overwhelmed. I have seen teachers have breakdowns. where they had to call the
Crazy.
ambulance to come because the teacher couldn't take it. Like I've seen it myself.
Wow.
I saw one, and it disturbed me the first time I ever saw it because I just heard a scream, and it was a
Wow.
scream, scream, screams, and everyone's like, "What the hell is going on?" And so I left my
Yeah.
class because I was like, "What is going on?" I ran to the hallway. A teacher she was going berserk in the library. She was throwing books. She was doing all kinds of stuff. They had to
Wow,
lock the
like that.
library, and they had to call 911 because she just lost it. She lost it. And this was a cool. She was a first year teacher. She was real cool. I actually liked her, and she just spazzed out. She spazzed out.
Damn.
So that was one. One time, a teacher locked herself in the bathroom, wouldn't come out, wouldn't come out. She was in there crying, crying, crying. They had to call
Damn.
911 for her too. So like, it's some real stuff happening here in these schools. Like people need to understand. Yes, teachers are stressed. And if you don't know how to handle that stress or talk it out or have some kind of an outlet, it's going
Yeah.
to build. It's going to build. And you don't want it to explode out on the kids or whatever. I mean, you don't want it for
Right.
yourself anyway. But
Right.
just the fact that it is happening in these schools, teachers are losing it. So just be mindful, people out there.
Yeah, yeah. No,
You know?
this is so important because I just I don't think people know that. I just think if
No.
you're not a teacher, you're not on the inside of it. You just don't have any idea because what
Yeah.
people see is they see what you present. You know what I'm saying? You as a teacher, you
Yeah.
got to present confidence. You got to present, oh, I got it
Hmm.
under control, and
Yeah.
maybe you do have it under control. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But there's teachers like you said who they don't people don't see the other side of that. Like
No.
that stress really gets to you sometimes, especially if
Yeah.
you it's not all about money, but at the end of the day, like
Mhm.
when you're working somewhere, even whether you're passionate or not, when you're doing
Mhm.
something for passion and you have a lot of stress and you're
Mhm.
underpaid, that
Yep.
creates a lot of stress in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because people
Yeah.
don't know what the hell you got going, what you have going on as far as surviving.
Right. Right. You don't. And it's just like, ugh, it's sad. You know what I mean? And there are some teachers who are stronger, I would say, when it comes to dealing with all that. I can say personally for
Hmm.
myself, I am stronger in that aspect, right? I have my
Hmm.
moments, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? But I have a
sure.
mom, I have friends like you. I know I could call you. You probably
You
be
could
like, what?
talk. Yeah.
But you would listen, you know what I mean? Like, I have other people or outlets that I can let it out to, and I can contain and control myself when I'm in that building. But
Hmm.
and other teachers, they can gravitate towards the stronger teachers. Like Shy, I've had to be there for other teachers, bawling, crying their eyes out to me. I just walked in your class to ask you a question, and then they're stressed. They start welling up their tears, and I'm like, just go, just go.
Damn.
I'll watch your class. You should never let your students see you cry. You should
Yeah.
never. That's always the
Yeah.
golden rule with me. No,
Hmm.
I can't. That's You can't do that. You
Because then
can't
it's
do that.
like at that point, they're always gonna feel like they got your number. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Yes.
got they've seen you vulnerable. You
Yep.
you kind of lost authority over them at that point, right?
Yep. Yep. And I can't even tell you how many times teachers come to me crying. Like I said, I just walked in to ask you a question, and then she was just overwhelmed with all the stuff on her table, and then she just
Hmm.
slammed it, and just the tears started coming. I was like, just go,
Damn.
just go, just go.
Is it have you ever seen anything behaviorally that teachers have like because of students' behavior this overwhelmed them, or has that been part of it the breakdown?
Yelling, snatching up kids. Oh yeah, all of that. Calling them things they shouldn't be calling them. Like I know certain students can take you there, but you still have to remember you're still the adult. You're
Yeah.
still a teacher. And yes, I've seen teachers yanking up kids, like I said, saying things they shouldn't be saying. Um, yeah, because
Well, what do you
that's
think
dangerous.
about the so ADHD and that whole thing? So I'm not gonna hold you too much longer because I know we can chop it up, but I love this combo because
I Oh.
We're getting the inside scoop of a teacher. What do you think about the whole ADHD thing? I mean, now
Mm.
it seems that kids. So, for instance, we have some friends where the some schools.
Mhm.
So we have some friends where their son is in the school and
Mhm.
normal boy,
Yeah.
but the teacher was like, well, telling our friends like, well, I think you should have him tested for ADHD, and I think there are some situations where, especially we're talking about black boys,
Mhm.
there are some situations where some kids are hyperactive or they may have some type of learning and disability, whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
But now it seems like they're pushing that like so proactively and getting
Yes.
kids into drugs and stuff very quickly. And I don't know if you've seen that or heard about that, but I've seen.
I agree with what you're saying. Like, yes, there are some children who are just they're just hyper. That's just them. Yes, I do agree with getting your child tested. If teachers are really analyzing and saying, okay, something might be going on here, just get the test just to see. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Now, when the test comes back and yes, that child has ADHD or any other thing going on, they are very quick to give that medicine because
Hmm.
they know as soon as that kid gets that medicine, they're going to be, this is them. They're zoned out in class. They don't, I have students like that right now.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. Young black boys. And so the thing is, when they come in, the nurse is supposed to administer their medicine at a certain time. Um, if they don't get that medicine or the parent doesn't give it to them before they come to school, they're off the chain. They're off the chain, right? And so you have to work. There we go again. The parent and the school, you have to work together to make it work. If they do need to be put on this medication,
Hmm.
parents have to do what they need to do. So if the parent doesn't administer that medicine, then the students coming to school, they're disrupting, it's chaos. You know what I mean? It does not work. It doesn't work in the long run.
Hmm.
So, you have to work with the school to make sure your child is all right and doing what
Yeah.
they need to do. But
Right.
I don't agree with just giving the medicine off just off the rip. Like the testing needs to be like extensive. Is this
Yeah.
really what they need? Because
If it's
we're
really
talking
what they
about
need, right.
elementary school kids. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's a big thing to give them medicine like that.
Right.
But when they take it, it's like a whole another person.
And that's the thing that's a little scary because I think that
Yeah.
sometimes I mean Dr. Umar talked about that a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
he talked about how, especially for boys, right? So
Mm-hmm.
boys now, right, this is very subjective as to what's disruptive or what's too much energy and what's not enough
Mm-hmm.
energy. I don't think there's
Yeah.
I can't judge it per se. But
Mm-hmm.
his point was that Dr. Umar's point was that a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
it's normal act no sometimes it's normal activity of young boys,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
there may not be being taught in a way to accommodate them. It's more like, okay, just sit down and be calm.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, there is a threshold that's way out of line where
Mm-hmm.
okay, this person has something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
And I think there's another line of someone who you may have someone who's just energetic,
Mm-hmm.
who just needs to be taught
Yep.
slightly
Yes.
differently,
Yes.
versus thinking that all, especially with boys, that
Yes.
they're all gonna, because boys are energetic, especially when you're talking
Lord, I
about
know.
first through fourth grade. You know it. Yeah, I ain't gonna tell you, but you
Yeah.
already know. So I get a little concerned, particularly with young black boys,
Mm-hmm.
that they're automatically put on some behavior disability or
Yeah.
behavior, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
It seems like they're being ushered into that very quickly,
Yeah.
and particularly if you have a parent who isn't involved. And I say
Mm-hmm.
that being that our friend, the teacher, suggested it. Now
Mm-hmm.
I know the boy I'm talking about. I know him because he's
Yeah.
a friend with my kids,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have any behavior, but he is a black boy in a all white school. So the teacher was like, "Well, you
Mhm.
know, maybe you should have him tested." And it's like,
Yeah.
why? What exactly is he doing? And the
Yeah.
stuff we've heard is like, nah,
Mhm.
it's not over the top jumping on top of desks and something crazy. It's just, you
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
So in those scenarios, it gets worrisome to me that, a lot of the young boys,
Mhm.
they're taking normal activity and kind of being like, well, just have them tested. And then there's a whole industry, obviously, when it comes to the drugs,
Yes.
the Ritalin and all this stuff. That's a whole nother industry,
Right.
that they putting. I think putting drugs in kids is an extreme thing.
I know. It's
It's extreme.
extreme. It's extreme. And it's so crazy you said that because just to compare, the one student I was just telling you about, he did those things literally on the tables, throwing chairs, trying to. He was one trying to stab another
Okay.
student with the pencil. Um,
Okay.
he's running out of the school, out of the building. You know, he's that type of a student,
That's off the chain.
off the chain. Put on medicine. Another student was off the chain too, right? Just like him, but not all the way there. And so what they did with him this year, he's not on medicine. He hasn't been on medicine. What they did this year was they put him in a self-contained class, which means it's just him and four other students,
Gotcha.
five total. That alone has tremendously helped him so much
Mm-hmm.
because now when I see him, because they come to me, just those five, right, for class,
Mm-hmm.
he's chill. But I knew even last year he liked music. And when we were doing stuff, he was into it. But then if somebody did one little thing, like he would snap, he would turn,
Yeah.
and then it's just
Right.
chaos. But he comes in, he's chill, he's on
Mm-hmm.
point, he's making sure other students are doing what they need to do. He wants to help. He loves it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see even when he's not in my class, when he's in the hallway, going to other, teachers, he is so it's a world of difference, Shy, from last
Yeah.
year. Just that one change
Just
in
that
his
one change.
yes, in his plan, in his IEP. Just let's put him in a self-contained class and see if that will help. More in just a smaller class, more interaction with the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for the teachers too when you're trying to teach all these children,
Yeah.
but now he has his main teacher and there's also a para in the class as well. So
Okay.
that just I mean, it's he's like a whole new person. You know what I
Well,
mean? So
yeah,
that
because
has helped
that's what they
him.
used to do back in the day. They used to have, from what I remember when I was in school, they had LD, learning disability, then they had
Hmm.
BD, behavior disability, and
Yeah.
there was no drugs back in the day. They just had,
Hmm.
to your point, they had a smaller class. What
Yeah.
I noticed, they
Yep.
behavior disability or learning disability, the
Hmm.
class was just smaller.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that was basically it. But there wasn't no Ritalin and all these other
Yeah.
stuff make the kid a zombie. That's
Right.
just, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
But that has
so if
helped
there's
him.
a situation where someone is trying to stab another student or they're running out of the building, obviously that's
Yeah.
way further out there than normal, quote unquote. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's just
but
he.
hyperactive is not hyperactive, or what you someone consider hyperactive
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily need to be on drugs.
Right. And
You
like you
know.
said too, you made a great point. That particular teacher he had last year, he's African American young boy, a white female teacher. She couldn't control that situation. So, yeah, she couldn't do it. But
And that's a big part of that's a big part of it because
mhm,
we don't have a lot of men in
I
the teaching space anyway,
don't. Yeah.
right? So, um, and I'm not blaming women,
Mhm.
but at the same time, as a woman, so if you're as a black woman,
Mhm.
to me, I think a lot of times you may be a little bit more aware of saying,
Mhm.
okay, here is a young black boy. I'm not just trying to
Right.
push him into this thing, but I think to your
Mhm.
point, or like we were saying, like a lot of times, most of the teachers are white women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And dealing with young black boys, sometimes
Mhm.
there's not this. there's almost an expectation that they're going to behave just like girls.
Mm,
Uh, Girls seem to be, and I'm saying what I think. I'm
yeah.
not a teacher. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Girls are a
Mhm.
little bit more compliant as far as behavior
Mhm.
than boys are. You know,
Yeah.
I've always seen that,
Yep.
and that's just the nature of girls versus the nature of boys, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean all
Yeah.
boys are running around, but
Right.
when it comes to that extra behavior, that extra energy,
Yep.
typically going to come from boys.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? So it just
Yes.
is what it is. We don't want to put everybody into
Great.
that hyper behavioral
Yeah.
category.
Right. Mhm.
Start putting everybody on drugs, then it gets
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. They
So
are in a zombie state, and it's just like you. It's like, okay, he's not doing those other harmful things, whereas the whole class is terrified of him.
right.
You know, so that's good. But just when they're just sitting there, they're just zoned out, like someone, like an adult, just high on whatever.
Are they even learning at that point?
You don't see. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you're there, but are you really there? Are you really
Are you
taking in
really
what's
there?
happening? Like, I don't know. It doesn't
Hmm.
look like it when I see it. They're just sitting there.
Yeah, I mean,
So
at that point, if they're on those drugs, they're just their behavior is calmed down and they're
correct.
sitting there like a zombie or
Yep.
or like a I don't want to call it dummy but like a zombie.
Yeah.
But the point is, are they retaining any information? Are they actually being taught anything?
Exactly.
you know
Exactly. Yep. I just, it's just sad. It's just sad, the things that they're trying to do to the kids, even trying to bribe them.
you
Like,
said bribe them.
bribe them. Like, even with his behaviors last year, they would say, "Well, we'll just get him McDonald's, and we'll." Literally, they ordered, somebody Ubered him McDonald's, and then he was calm or whatever. But then that there's a whole nother side of that. He's not getting fed at home, so he's
Right.
starving. So he's acting out. These behaviors are progressing. It's just a whole lot. It's a
It's a
whole
whole
lot
lot.
going on there. So
Mm,
it's like, yeah, he needs help.
yeah.
But I mean, the medicine is just, I mean, that's just, I guess, the last step. You know what I mean? But it's just hard to see them like that. Yeah.
All right, G. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
Have a great weekend. I'll
Okay,
talk
you
to you soon.
too. Okay.
All right.